Welcome to the Everyday Heroes podcast by Kofkin Bond Co. Today, we're joined by Vicki Likoudis, a Melbourne-based commercial property advocate and founder of True North Buyers Advocate with more than 15 years experience in property and executive leadership, including her time as CEO of a sustainable property development company. Vicki specializes in sourcing, assessing and negotiating commercial premises for businesses, investors, and organizations. She's known for bringing clarity, strategy, and transparency to what can often be a complex process. Enjoy the podcast.
Vicki Likoudis, welcome to Everyday Heroes Kofkin Bond podcast. Great to have you here.
Oh, thank you.
Long time friend, first time recording.
Yeah.
But you are, just as a brief introduction, everyone would have heard your bio, but you are a commercial property advocate, and you are our go-to commercial property advocates for our clients and those who actually want or who are looking at commercial property for themselves as well. So welcome to our podcast. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be your advocate, and also, thanks for the opportunity to be here.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about little Vicki Likoudis running around Geelong. Prior to obviously joining the property industry.
Yeah, of course. So, born and raised in Geelong, Greek family background. So grew up in commercial property was a really big part of growing up for us. And we had about 5 food businesses in total. So family would buy them, build them, sell them, and selling them was
Fish and chip shops in there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
My first ever fish and chip shop man was a Greek guy.
Yeah. So
You'd greet me by saying, "What do you want, boy?"
What do you want, boy? I think that was probably my dad.
Yeah. Opposite Queen's Park in Many Ponds.
Okay. Well, that's right. So for Greeks, it was food, fish and chips, takeaway. Italians had the fruit shops and the pizza shops, So, but business and property were a really big part of growing up for us. And we worked in all the businesses, and being the eldest of the family, it was, the commercial property side of it was, big. So I was involved in all of that growing up, and, beautiful background of family and business and property all interwoven.
Did you get paid? My father did not believe in pocket money, no matter what I did.
We got paid old school way, which basically meant that we had a house and we had food on the table and we had love in the house. So it's kind of what it was back then.
No, that's actually beautiful.
Yeah.
So tell us then something about yourself that might surprise people.
What might surprise people? So I think that I always go with the approach that what else is there? Like, I don't know everything. And that also goes hand in hand with not necessarily, it's not about doubting yourself, but you're always wondering what you might be missing in terms of information or in terms of insight. And I think that that's a sharpness as well, because it constantly keeps you on your toes around exploring everything for yourself in terms of life, and exploring everything for yourself in terms of opportunity, but also exploring everything for clients as well. So I think that's a real strength, going in there and potentially looking at something as not a complete picture, like what else is there. So what might surprise people is that I'm always curious about myself and curious about what else.
Yeah. On that basis, then, if somebody says, you meet somebody and say, "Oh, what do you do?" Usually they ask you your name first, but secondly, what do you do? How do you introduce what you actually do?
Yeah, so I'm a commercial property advocate. And then that then goes hand in hand with essentially saying that I help clients secure commercial property. And clients can be business
But
owners.
not just purchasing, though.
No, that's right.
You also help with leasing as well.
Exactly.
I shot you off an email this morning about our own lease.
You did indeed. Yes, thank you. We'll have a chat about that later.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, exactly. So we help clients secure commercial property. And it's important to say clients, because it is everything from SMEs, nonprofits, organisations, working with a couple of councils, investors as well. So anything that requires securing commercial property.
What actually transitioned you into property?
So I've been in property a little bit. My background, touched on my family background in
Mm.
business, but then I myself have had 3 businesses and I've successfully sold 2 of them. I had this, great privilege of being CEO of a property development company with, beautiful principles embedded in sustainability for a private
Quite a
family
number of
office.
oh, yeah, I was gonna say quite a number of people in the family
Yep.
office, wasn't there?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, been in property for a while, been in business for a very long time. When I did have one of my businesses, I was a volunteer advocate, president of an association that advocated for all the businesses in the area. And that was for 4.5 years. And that was a role that
Down
I,
Brunswick Way, was it?
yeah, it was
Yeah.
up Sydney Road,
Yeah.
Brunswick. So, yeah, I did that for a while as well, and I loved it. And it was a volunteer role, and I loved it. So the role that I'm in now is really a combination of all those things: business and property and advocacy
Why being a buyer's advocate and starting your own business and not just going and working at one of this,
on the sales side.
CLE or something like that in the sales side? Yeah.
Yeah, something about advocacy. Maybe it's the and not to say that this doesn't exist on the sales side, but the integrity I believe that I can bring to the table in advocacy really means a lot to me. It's
The reason why we use you, but yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It's fulfilling for me. It requires similar kind of principles that agents have in selling. But the fundamental difference for me personally is that I hold that as a pillar for the work that I do and how I work, that advocating for someone really means something for me. So that's why advocating comes natural, I guess.
And I think the key is rather than as, an agent
Mm,
where you're acting on behalf of the person selling, you're acting on behalf of the person who's purchasing.
that's right.
Whereas the agents, you assume if they're doing their job, is trying to get the highest price possible, and you're trying to get the lowest price possible.
Yeah, well, we're trying to get the best terms possible. So, and that many times includes the lowest price. And to that point as well, a selling agent, they also have long term relationships, but there's a beginning to a campaign and there's an end to a campaign. Whereas in advocacy and in purchasing or securing property for clients, that's sticky. That's going to last for as long as that client's in the property 10, 20 years later.
Yeah.
What you have helped guide them towards is going to last for a very long time. So you better know what you're doing.
So when you help a client secure a lease, you're not actually becoming the leasing agent, though, are you? You're just
No,
you're helping the client just become that lease. So there's
exactly.
no necessary conflict of interest for you of getting your 7% of the rent roll, stuff like
Oh, no,
that.
no. No, nothing
Yeah.
like that. Really clear, no conflict of interest, purely independent. This is the fee for us to source and secure, or you have found it, as in the instance of, a couple of clients, you have found the site. We'll run the DT and negotiate for you.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about just that typical engagement. So the DD process.
Yep.
There's a whole range of things. It's not just well, here's an empty warehouse, and it looks nice and it's freshly painted, and it's how much do they want? Let's buy it.
Yep.
There's a lot more to it from that. So can you talk us through just a normal transaction? So I mean, you did one recently for one of our
Yeah.
clients. Closed, I think, just a month or so ago.
Yes.
So it's very successful.
Yeah.
Can you talk us through that sort of process of first, engaging with him?
Yes.
He'd found something he liked, and where
Yes.
you sort of went through that process, and why did he engage you?
Yeah. Yeah, so we generally take on a very consultative approach. So in that particular instance, we wanted to understand what the value in engaging us was or is, because it's different for everyone. So for some people, it's about they need more information about a particular site. And certainly we do all of these things, but we really want to understand the value for them. So they need more information on a particular site. They need to be confident that this site is the best site in the area for them. In the particular example that we're using now, this client's really well versed in commercial property, but he also wanted to take a family break for a month and didn't want to have to worry about negotiations or whatever else. And also wanted to understand how it's positioned from a market value perspective. So we stepped in. So it's really important to understand what it is that they find value in to make sure that you can meet that value. So we'll go in and then we'll understand from a consultative approach where the value is, what we can help with. we will always run comparisons to understand the market value, how to best position the narrative or the conversation with the agent so that we can justify our position. Um, Look, I always think it's important in any negotiation. Your strongest lever in negotiation is to have options. So, regardless of the fact that they've highlighted a specific property in some instances to focus on, I do think it's important to also present other opportunities because when you're going in and having the conversation with agents, it's really strong to simply have other options. So we look at it from that perspective. And then if we're deciding we are going ahead on that particular property after we've presented all the information, then we make an offer and we always make sure that's subject to whatever is relevant for that particular asset type. Now, that could be a building report, that could be a soil report, that could be a lease review, that could be a strata review. We make sure that there's a real balance between highlighting all of the red flags and all of the opportunities so that they're all on the table and we can make a decision from there.
The difference then between, well, let's look at I suppose I'm more asking a difference here. The difference between a commercial property advocate and say a residential property advocate and just an agent.
Yeah.
From what I understand, and this is just my occupation, but focusing on the dollars. So let's say, for example, I've often said this that if an agent, who is earning, say, a commission, I've got no problems with that. They do their job and they do it well. They're earning a commission, and if the price is negotiated down by $50,000,
Mm-hmm.
from the agent's perspective, so that client who might have thought they were getting $1 million and now getting 950 as an example.
Mm-hmm.
From the agent's perspective, there's not a lot of incentive to say, no, walk away from this. I'll keep working for you to get the million.
Mm.
Their percentage of 50 grand is not a lot of money.
Yeah.
Um, from the client's perspective, that 50 grand is a lot of money. From your client's perspective, it's a huge amount of money.
Yes, of
You're
course.
actually, so now I know there's a whole lot more than you do
Of course.
than try to save some money
Yeah.
for the client. And as you said, the DD in respect to being able to go say, well, we do have two others around about this range.
Yes.
So that's where I see the difference, say, between an agent and commercial, or even in respect to residential. But can you explain the difference between a commercial buyer's advocate now and a residential buyer's advocate?
Yeah, of course. So quite simply, residential focuses on homes, residential investment properties, owner occupier, whatever the case might be. And then commercial, specifically in the work that we do, we only work in commercial. There are a few out there that are hybrids, but I do think it's important to get a specialist when you're looking at a particular asset type, mainly because of the fact that commercial property is generally it's more complicated than residential, and so being able
Not too
to
many people need, want, or look for commercial property, but most people, look for a residential place if they don't want to live in a tent.
yeah.
So it's,
That's
yeah,
right. So to that point exactly in residential, and probably the reason why there's a lot of advocates in the residential space is that you have a lot of transactions in residential. Most people understand residential because hopefully in one way or another they've had a home or they've lived in something that's a home. Um, and in commercial, there are a lot of people that put commercial in the too hard basket because they simply don't understand it. They haven't experienced it, which is why we work with a lot of business owners and organizations and people that understand commercial property one way or another. So differences between commercial and residential are purely asset types. And then when you look at commercial property, there's such a diverse range of asset types within the commercial sector anyway,
yeah.
you know,
Office, warehouse,
office,
warehouse.
warehouse, land,
Yep.
single purpose, like there's a lot of diversity in there.
What are some of the areas of like constraints and price and things like that that you've dealt with clients? Say they want to spend $1 million, but they want something this size and in this postcode, and you say, well, so how do you
Yeah.
start to deal with those type of things?
So we front end a lot of complimentary sessions with our clients. And I do that for two reasons. I do that so I can make sure that they get a lot of value out of the information that we share. Because of the fact that commercial property, there's so many moving parts in it. We want them to have the confidence in knowing what the right step forward is
Yeah.
for them. But also from our perspective, to be honest with you, like it's important to have those sessions early on because we want to be able to make sure that we're working within parameters of realistic expectations. And so, unlike Resi, where there's a lot of automated data out there, if someone wants to buy something in Mooney Ponds for 1.5 million, you
Not
know,
going to get much.
yeah, well, they're not going to get much,
Yeah.
and then B, there's a couple of platforms where they can simply populate it with some data and see how realistic that is. That's not necessarily the case with commercial property.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure we're having conversations about what their expectations are, what does that look like, what are the challenges associated with, and really squeeze that in to make sure that we can achieve a really good result.
Has there ever been an instance where you've told a client this is not a good deal, but they've still wanted to go through with it?
Uh, um, Thankfully, they decided not to, but that took a long time for them to say no to it. So, yes, there was one particular instance where, in actual fact, not only did we state that it's not a good deal, we also said, don't engage us. So,
Okay.
the reason being is I remember it was a really lovely husband wife team. They're in the medical sector, they'd been working for others, they wanted to start their own business. They found a particular site that they loved, really just wanted to focus on this site. And so we were connected to them by their lawyer, and they wanted to lease this site. And now they were at the pointy end of negotiations. They had done 90% of the negotiations, and they simply wanted to engage me to step in and see if I could get a particular part of the negotiation across the line.
Yeah.
Now, we do prefer to be brought in from the early stages because we want to be able to negotiate the way that we want or the way that we feel is best for the client. And in this particular instance, I didn't really know that I could add much more value because they hadn't positioned themselves to an advantage. And then I saw the site. And I was very upfront with them, and I knew that they would go backwards about 180K on this site
Wow.
before they had to spend 350K on their fit out. And I explored the area, and I knew that there were other opportunities there
And that
vacant.
would that cause borrowing issues and restraints from the bank, in respect to giving them money for the fit
Yeah,
out and things
yeah,
like that?
exactly.
Yeah.
And then they'd go backwards a couple of years before they went forwards in their business. And I did say to them, like, there's a couple of other options in the area, and the condition of the property is at a much better state. And don't look at these ones, don't look at this particular property for these reasons, or maybe consider these other properties for these reasons. And so we went through that for a while. And I also said that I don't think that I can add much more value for you in engaging us for this particular property. Like, I don't want to take a fee for what I don't believe is going to be a great result for you. And then great, they didn't engage us, which was great. And then they also took them a while, but they decided to go for one around the corner, which was better condition.
Yep. I went to Greece for the first time 2 years ago. And one thing I realised in walking around Crete, whereas most of the people there seem to be from Melbourne, so, and there was always the saying that I think the second largest Greek city in the world was Melbourne.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
outside
so
of Athens.
but I believe now it's actually Crete.
Yeah, yeah.
I think Crete's population is now bigger than the Greek population sitting in Melbourne. But in saying that, though, there's not a lot of people of Greek origins hanging around Melbourne sort of July, August. They seem to all be in Greece
Yeah,
from that. But you actually went and enrolled in a business called Find My Greece.
yeah,
What did that come about?
do indeed. Yeah. Well,
Do your family have property in Greece?
yeah. So
Yeah.
there's two major things that happened there. So my dad passed about 6.5 years ago, and when he passed, had this really strong calling to do something with a piece of land that we had there. So my folks bought a piece of land in an area called Marco Polo, which is about 20 minutes away from the airport, coastal.
In Athens.
Yeah,
Yes,
sorry, that's
Athens.
right. So 20 minutes outside of Athens Airport, and we hadn't been able to do anything with it, which is a very familiar story to a lot of Greek Australians. It hasn't been residentially zoned, backs onto a forest, blah blah blah. Now, maybe about 20 years ago, we could have paid off all the neighbours and built something illegally, and that would have been fine. But that simply doesn't happen now. And so when Dad
Much cash, was it?
yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah, if you could pay
yeah.
everyone off and build at night
Mm,
and keep it quiet.
yeah. Yeah.
But you just can't do that. I tried, but you couldn't do it
Yeah.
anymore. So yeah, for me, the big catalyst in that was really exploring what I could do with this portion of land, which is a very familiar story to a lot of Greeks right now, because I wanted to stay connected to Greece through. I wanted to stay connected
You
to
were
my,
born in Australia, weren't you?
yeah,
Yeah.
Geelong, yeah,
Yeah.
to my family through this land in Greece. I want the kids growing up, with a connection to Greece, which is really important. So I started exploring what we can do with this property, and I kept hitting a wall because it's not residentially zoned. Off grid, caravans, whatever else, nothing was possible. And so then at the time, I thought this is going to be a familiar story for a lot of Greeks down here in terms of wanting that reconnection back home. And there are many that have that by way of inherited land or they've built something. So I built a bit of an ecosystem of professional services overseas, a small one, but I didn't really get much traction with it because I was building my own business here at the same time. A couple of years ago, there's a resi agent in Melbourne that approached me. We know each other, Spiro, and he had registered a business name called Find My Greece, and he wanted to workshop a few ideas with me about what I thought about this proposition of buying and selling in Greece. I'm like, well, I've already started a little bit myself, and you've started as well. Let's do this together. And he was with a partner called Chris, and the three of us got together, and it's what we do now. So the three Greeks in Melbourne, and we've got Find My Greece, and we have a lot
You're
of,
getting tax deductible holidays
yeah,
back to Greece now,
exactly.
aren't you? So
Funny you say
legitimate,
that.
legitimate tax deductible holidays back to
Legitimate,
Greece.
legitimate, exactly.
Yes.
So, look, I'm on the buying side, and there are a fair few Greeks in Melbourne that want to sell property in Greece, and certainly we look at doing that because they've inherited land, but probably inherited problems as well. Um, and there's a fair few clients uh, that are also not only that are non-Greek and also international.
So what are some of the biggest hurdles then? I mean, so if you don't have any Greek origin in you, can you actually buy a property in Greece?
Yeah, you can. And probably rather than a hurdle, it's an opportunity with the golden visa. And that's why Greece is a bit of a hotspot right now.
Can you explain the golden visa?
Yeah. So when you purchase a property, when you essentially invest in a certain amount of money in Greece, and for the purposes of this conversation, we'll say property, you get residency.
Yep.
So the threshold is constantly lifting, and think off the back of um, the very difficult economic period that Greece was experiencing back in 2015.
Yeah.
This has been a part of remedying that, the golden visa. So where it was 250,000 euro buys you the opportunity to have residency in Greece. In certain parts of Greece now, that's lifting to, say, Mykonos, Santorini, 800,000. But then you can have that 250,000 euro threshold in other parts of Greece that aren't as popular.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's I think Italy did something similar as well, or some of the regions like, for example, Sicily.
Mm,
You could buy a property for next to nothing,
yeah,
but you have to be there, I think, 6 months of the
that's
year and
right.
things like that. Is that the same with Greece as well?
No.
You don't have to be there for a period of time?
Well, I think that the visa part of it needs to be explored.
Yeah.
That you need to. That there are conditions.
Yeah. Okay.
The Italians, or what they were doing in Italy, were that opportunity to purchase for €1, say, but with certain conditions. I'm not overly familiar with it, but certain conditions like you had to renovate within a certain period of time and spend time,
Yeah.
half the year there. I think it was.
Yeah.
But gorgeous opportunities.
Do you have any success stories or even cautionary tales for people who want to buy a property in Greece? Who, there's someone like myself who doesn't have besides the fact, love Greek food,
Yeah,
my favorite food in the world,
it
but
is nice.
it doesn't actually have, any, uh, as far as I'm aware, DNA connection
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Greece.
I think the main thing about Greece is, well, Europe in general works at a different pace than we do in
Yep.
Australia, which is part of what we offer with Find My Greece. It's the end product is great, but we have Aussie infrastructure, so we work with a different pace here. So don't have the expectation that they're going to be working with that pace. And so the complexity is that you definitely want to have a team of experts, and when we say experts, they're like that new generation coming up in Greece of professional services is sharp
Yeah.
in comparison to what it was, say, 30, 40 years ago, which not that it wasn't sharp, but they had a different attitude. So you want your lawyer, you want your notary, and you want people that can connect you to a wider ecosystem, very similar to buyers advocates here. So you want someone that can connect you to a wider ecosystem. So what to watch out for is if you're connected to that wider ecosystem of professional services, they know what to look out for you. Like to give you an example, we've got a client right now that is selling in Greece and we've found a buyer and all of that was tracking along nicely. But now we've found out that through the due diligence process, because it works slightly differently to here, the building itself needs to be remeasured and then also changed on the title as a result of some differing information that was coming through. And that will delay things a lot. That's important for both the buyer to know and the seller. So there's different moving parts.
So that could potentially even change the price, the purchase price. Um,
Yeah, potentially if they want to
yeah.
renegotiate it.
Yep.
Exactly.
Let's go back to your work here that you do with commercial properties. Can you explain to our audience what some of the red flags are that you see that they might not see?
Yeah.
With once again, big difference between commercial property and
Yes.
residential.
Yeah.
Are some of those red flags?
Yeah. And it's always a balance being a commercial advocate because you want to really unearth all of the potential problems and you want to balance that with the opportunities as well. So the red flags are in, well, so let's start with this isn't necessarily a red flag, but always make sure that you understand the value of the property. And again, it's hard with commercial property because there's no automated data. So you want to see what the comparables in the area are. You want to talk to agents in the area to understand what the other opportunities are. Depending on the asset type and where it is, I would always say building report, type of building may warrant a structural report. So, building pest report, potentially a soil contamination report. So, we're doing one
Does
today,
the
actually.
potential purchaser pay for all of that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Yeah. So, to that point, there are potentially higher costs involved in the due diligence phase for commercial than there is with resi. So, soil contamination report potentially. If you're leasing, if you're buying an investment property, you want to run a lease review. Um, so the red flags come with the asset type itself, the building condition. You know, like when you're buying a building, you want to know whether you're going to have to big ticket items in commercial or structural, flooring, roof. So you want to get all of that checked out because you want to know if you're going to go backwards before you go forwards. So that's really important. And zoning, depending on if you're going to go in there as an owner operator, then you want to know that you can actually run that particular business in that area.
I never thought of that.
Mm,
So there might be a particular business that you can't run out of a certain area.
absolutely. Like if you're going to run, we'll use hospitality as an example. You've got to make sure that there's, in some areas, parking plays a part in that. I've just secured a site for a new operator in Camberwell, and for the type of business that she's operating, she needs to have a certain amount of parking in the area. Um, yeah, zoning plays a big part. Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned before leasing. Somebody's looking at buying a property and leasing. So let's say, for example, a landlord decides to put their property up for sale
Hmm.
and they have a tenant there who has a few years left on the
Yeah.
lease. Uh, does that, and the tenant doesn't want to leave.
Yeah.
But if there's a new owner, does that give them the right to negotiate a better lease?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So, fresh off the back of one that we just bought yesterday, actually, in
Mm.
Epping. So, owner operator clients, and they were open to either purchasing vacant possession or with a short term leases tenancy in place because of the fact that they're currently leasing in the area. Um, and they were happy to break the lease of where they're at as an opportunity cost to move into something, providing we get it at a good price. So, we ended up purchasing great property, and there is a lease in place, and the current term of the lease ends in August 2026, and then the tenant has a further 2-year option beyond that. And there is no market review at the option renewal period either. So, to your question, we are inheriting the lease. we're purchasing the lease in place. So that's a secure lease in place. It's a secure contract in place that that tenant has, and they can stay in there. And they've got every right to stay in there for that additional 2-year period after August of next year. Now, when the current term is up, there's conversations that you can have with the tenant about, where they're at and if they would move on. But
Usually see an
contractually,
incentive attached with that.
say that again.
Usually see an incentive attached with that if they really want to move into that property.
You can have any conversation you want to have with the tenant and see if you can position it in your favor, and they will do the same and see if they can position it in their favor as well. So,
I was going to ask if the tenant in this case has 12 months left on a lease, let's say,
yeah.
and there is that new buyer, do they have the right to be able to break that lease at that stage?
Does the tenant have the right to break the lease?
Yes.
They can break the lease, but they're still responsible for the term of that lease.
Oh, they are.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
yeah, so that's purchased as part of it.
Oh, absolutely. So
Yeah.
everyone's inheriting it.
Yep.
So
Okay.
they're inheriting this new, new landlord in place, and as a new property owner, you're inheriting that lease. You need to meet the obligations of that lease, the tenancy.
Yeah. Okay. So that doesn't change.
No.
What's some trends or disruptions you're actually seeing in commercial real estate at the moment?
So
Or what are you excited about, or what are you wary about?
So
Offices must have become fun over the last few years.
fun for offices.
Yeah, pre-COVID rents versus post-COVID rents.
Yeah, look,
A
there's
bit of
not.
a bit of fun there.
Yeah, there's not a lot that we do in the CBD for offices. That in itself is its own kind of like beast. But to answer your question around what we're seeing that we're particularly interested in we're in that part of the cycle right now where it's still a buyer's and a tenant's market. And a buyer's market for vacant possession commercial property. So off the back of the increase of interest rates that we had, so when interest rates increase, commercial properties generally tends to be the first to take the hit. And when they decrease, it's generally the last to rebound. So we're in that part of the cycle right now where if you are pursuing a commercial property with vacant possession, I dare say that there's a few options out there and negotiations are on your side. And likewise, if you're a tenant or if you're looking at leasing a site, there's a few options out there. And I always start with negotiating on everything, you know. So it's that part of the cycle for business owners and for organizations that are looking at potentially moving or upsizing or downsizing or just simply securing a new space or renegotiating their lease. Now's the time to do it.
What are some things that a potential purchaser should have? Well, a couple of things. They should already have very clear in their mind before engaging yourself.
Before engaging us. Well, I think that what they need to have very clear anyway is an understanding about what the end goal is. So, for business owners purchasing commercial property, it's really important to purchase on what your business needs today. Also, have a think about what your business is going to need 5, 10 years down the track, and also consider that property from an investment perspective. So, you want to have those two hats on as a business owner buying commercial property. You want to look at it from your business point of view, and you want to have the investment hat on. What that means is it an asset type that will appeal to a diverse range of tenants in the future? And is it in an area that is low on vacancy, and you would hope would be low on vacancy in the future and keep that value up?
What are some big audacious goals for Vicki Likoudis? So tell us some of the goals you have, over the next 5 to 10 years for what you do.
Yeah, I'm really excited about my business right now. I've got this nice little niche where my background in business, my love of working with business owners and organizations, and this specialty in commercial property is this great alchemy of producing results for people. So, the next iteration we're about to go into the next iteration of the business. I've got a new business name, Tony, off the record, I'll tell you a little bit later.
Okay.
And all that should happen before the end of this year, actually. So, new business name, new logo, new presentation. We're growing the team.
Corporate photos.
New corporate, new corporate photos.
Off air conversation, guys. Sorry.
And we're growing the team. The team will be always small and boutique. We want to keep our service really focused on customer service, on results. So that's going to be really tight. So from my business perspective, that's particularly exciting. We're going into the next iteration. We're growing up a little bit. And then for myself personally, it's this kind of this great balance of this business and offering that we have that is providing real value in the market, and Greece. And Greece is really important because it's that connection to family and community, and yeah, so it's a really exciting time right now.
My friends and clients who are Greek, there's always been that real bond with the motherland.
Yeah,
So there's, even you can have, third going into fourth generation now here, but those grandkids or great grandkids still speak Greek.
yeah, right.
So there's just, they go to Greek school still.
Yes, yes, yes.
So things like that. It's probably one of um, the successful migrant stories here in Australia. I mean, obviously Melbourne and Sydney, but Melbourne
Yeah,
has a very large Greek population. But very successful migrant stories here in Australia where the connection hasn't been lost
yeah.
with the homeland as well.
Yeah, us Greeks are fanatic about Greece, and for every reason. 300 days of sunshine, like 3,000 islands. It's
Food.
the food, like oh, it's so beautiful, and the like yeah, immigrant stories are a balance of beautiful and togetherness and connection and hardship as well. It's like there's that longing that the folks came down with, and that longing from missing out on their own families and what that meant to us as kids. And that was a burden as well, by the way. Like that's a lot to carry. But it's all beautiful. And yeah, Greeks love Greece, that's for sure.
I have a couple of great clients who, in partnership with each other, both very, very successful. Great guys, very, very successful, about the same age as me. And one of them turned around to his dad and said, "Dad, I'm thinking of selling everything up and to moving to Greece." He said, basically, I'll probably net about 10 mil. They've been
Yeah.
very successful.
Yeah.
He said, and thinking of, once the kids finish school next year, of packing up and moving to Greece. And his dad said, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "You're going there for holidays. Here's where home is." He goes, "But do you know how far $10 million can go over there?
Yeah.
I'm retiring now and I'm living like a king now."
Yes.
His father was furious.
Yeah. Yes.
I
Yes.
didn't come here and work my butt off and open up the fish and chip shop. So
Yeah.
you had a great education and became a doctor for you to
Totally.
move back.
Yeah. That's
So,
happening a lot, Tony.
yeah.
It's a double-edged sword for
Our friend Manuel, I mean, he's got a
yeah.
property there,
Yeah.
but he still, lives here, but
Yes.
he's got a property over there.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
he travels there a lot.
he does.
And it's hard. It's a double-edged sword because they left their families, and now this generation is looking for any opportunity to go back and spend more time there. So for them, they're kind of like losing two families, and
Yeah.
it's triggering for them. But yeah, anyway, like what a beautiful problem to have that you belong to two countries. So
Yeah, I know it's the bane of my mother's life with my sister, who's got the gypsy blood in her without any doubt. And so Michelle was, 3.5 years younger than me, so she's 53 this December.
yeah,
And yeah, so she's lived in the UK for 10 years, went there for 6 weeks and came back 10 years later.
right.
Lived here for 10 years and now has been 12 years over in the US. And
Yeah, right.
yeah, but as you know, it's exactly what my mum and dad did.
Yes,
So moving
exactly.
here.
Yeah,
My dad didn't really have family, but mum did move away from hers,
right.
being her brother and two sisters. So and went back a number of times, but
So your
yeah,
folks didn't have family here?
no, none
Okay.
whatsoever. The migrants here as well, with no family, no nothing, came here
Right.
and half empty suitcase, one shoe, and £200 in the pocket, and that was it. But I remember
Wow.
asking my dad once, and it's probably a similar story, but I asked my dad once, listeners have probably heard this story before, but why did you pack up everything and take the risk moving to Australia? He said, "What risk?"
Yeah,
He
yeah,
said, living in London, we had nothing.
yeah.
Couldn't afford to live in our own place. And, we're both working on the buses. That's where they met, working as
Right.
conductors on the buses. And he said, so we came to Australia with nothing. And if we failed and we went back with nothing, we're probably still better off than,
Yeah.
than what we would have been. But 2 years after getting here, 2.5 years, I decided to come along.
Jesus, I
And
have to come along.
Mum still hates the weather. It's always too hot, even in
Oh,
winter.
it's too
It's
hot
just a bit
for
too hot
her.
for her. Yeah, so it's
Right.
a good Irish woman.
Yeah.
Anything over 12 degrees is too hot.
Right, right, right.
But it was a case of they worked really hard, good middle class out Moonee Ponds,
Yeah.
middle class families, and made sure my sister and I had an education because neither of them really had that,
Yeah.
and we've done pretty well for ourselves. So
Yeah.
it's your typical migrant story, and I had to work from the moment I could walk. Basically,
Yes.
you'll go and get a part-time job as well, but it was always good. It was always really good. It was a good upbringing, and as you said, Mum was definitely the boss, but a house full of love.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's and just you saw Dad would come home at 5 o'clock every day,
Mm-hmm.
and made sure he had dinner with us,
Yeah.
and then go back to work,
Yeah.
and then wake up at 4:30 every morning to take me swimming training, sleep in the car whilst I'm swimming, then go to work.
Gorgeous. Still had the commitment for you
Correct,
guys to do what you wanted to do. And
100% correct. But you
yeah.
never missed dinner with us ever.
Yeah. How beautiful.
Yeah, and Mum worked. Mum always worked as well, but
Right.
she would start work. She was a telephonist at Telecom
Okay.
before it became Telstra,
Yeah.
and so she would start work. She'd do an early shift, so she'd start work at I think 6:30
Mm-hmm.
to make that way she could be home at 3:30 to make dinner. Thankfully, because Dad could not cook to save himself.
Right.
He couldn't even make toast. So
Yeah.
it's but he would come home, we would eat, he'd go back to work. That was Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
Well, Thursday, every Friday we always had fish and chips.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh, yeah. That's
always had the fish and
that's
chips
when
on the
we were the
Friday.
busiest. Yeah.
Yes, that's
Friday
right. So,
nights.
yeah, and Friday Lent always had fish,
Yeah.
no meat.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Totally.
the good Irish Catholic mum. So yeah, no, it is that sort of migrant story. But I'm going to before I go to rapid fire questions, what's something you'd like to see changed in the real estate industry? If there's anything right now from, say, in the commercial or just
Yeah.
from the real estate industry in general, what's something you'd like to see changed?
I'm really just going to focus on that question more from an advocacy perspective. I think that there could probably be a lot more education for advocates and support for advocates, because a lot of the association work out there, and there is a lot of it, but it tends to be focused on the sales side. And for the upskilling to be on the sales side or the property management side, there are a lot of advocates in the industry. And
In commercial as well?
no, not so much in
Yeah,
commercial, not so much, more in residential. But in general, because we're dealing with large amounts of money for clients, and helping direct that, I think that the industry could really make use of probably increasing the threshold of how people enter the industry. And then secondly, constant upskilling and knowledge. And I think that everyone will benefit from that, but it needs it.
an advocate still has to be licensed, correct?
Absolutely. It's still and to run your own advocacy, it's a class one real estate agent license. So
Yeah.
business brokers, sales agents, and advocates have the same license.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which always surprised me why a business broker has a real estate license.
There's a lot of things that need to change, I think. Yeah, to
Mm.
make them more fit for purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very, very true. Some rapid fire questions for you, Vicky.
Okay.
What's the first thing you do when you wake up?
Oh, I make coffee. Like I brew my own coffee.
Good strong coffee?
Good strong coffee straight away.
Straight away in the morning?
And then I also and I always sit outside wherever I'm at and drink my coffee.
Summer, winter?
Summer, winter.
I'm exactly the same.
I'll rug up. Yeah, I
Mm.
have to be outside. And I always start with four. But I think they call them square breaths. So four in. Yeah, you know what I'm
Four
talking
by
about?
four by four.
4x4.
Mm.
So that's how I always start every morning.
So for me, it's four, nothing for four, breathe out for 8, and that activates the vagus nerve.
I'll breathe out for 8.
8, yeah, and then wait for 4 and then do it again. So that actually
nice.
activates the vagus nerve,
Oh, okay.
which is the nerve that goes from your brain down to your belly.
Okay.
And basically controls a lot of things like your emotions and things like that as well.
Oh, nice.
I haven't done my box breathing properly. If you see me grumpy, Bella. It's I've been doing that every morning for that's probably about a decade, and
have you?
my meditation every morning. So I always do my breathing first.
Yes.
I do my meditation and always do that outside.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's
And you do it outside as well? Yeah.
yeah, summer or
nice.
winter. and always have my cold shower.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so it's, showers aren't that long
Yeah,
in the
no,
winter.
nothing about a cold shower here. Trust me. Like, calm down.
Yeah, so you just answered the second question: coffee or green smoothie.
Yeah.
Tell me, what's a book every entrepreneur should read?
Oh, well, I read a lot
Mm.
and I can never remember what I read. So, to that, I will answer that I think that every person should read, only because it's topical for me right now. I'm really into a lot of Dr. Joe Dispenza's stuff.
Mm.
And I think that that's very relatable for business, life, self, love. Like, it's beautiful and it's profound. And I would also almost call it sacred work. So, yeah, I think it's important.
He actually runs 3-day camps up in the
He,
Gold Coast.
in the Gold Coast,
Yeah.
3-day camps. Yeah,
Yeah, once a
right.
year he's usually up there in the Gold
I
Coast.
didn't know
Has
that.
up to 1,000 people attending.
Oh, I was looking at going to the ones in the States, but
Oh, you
that's
do that
interesting.
too.
Okay.
So
I
it's
didn't know that he came to the
yeah,
Gold
no,
Coast.
well, I don't know if he does it yearly anymore, but he was certainly doing them annually.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, up in the Gold Coast.
Yeah, right.
His books are magnificent.
So great.
Yeah, the brain is just so powerful.
Yeah, it's important. Yeah.
Yep, so very, very true. First thing you notice when you walk into a property.
Ah, eh, I mean, I'm going to cheat and answer. I say everything. Like, I can feel it and see it all at once.
You
I
do
can,
read Joe Dispenza's books.
yeah.
Yeah.
I get So to answer that, I get a sense of it. And that's the first thing. And then I go looking for the micro. Then I go looking for the structure. And then I go looking for the land component. And then I go looking for whatever is relating to that property. But I will get a sense of what I'm feeling in that property as soon as I walk into it. That, like, I've rarely been wrong.
Mm. Dream house feature you'd splurge on no matter what.
Let me tell you about that one. So that's in Greece, and it's 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, and it's by the water, and the water's in front of us here, and the village lights are over there. And it is a large indoor outdoor open space. So, kitchen overlooking the beautiful outside area, and it's just friends and family day in, day out.
You do your visualizations as well. The way you describe that, I've just got the picture in my head.
That's exactly what it's going to be as well. Yeah.
So, okay, on that rooftop garden or wine cellar.
Oh, rooftop in the summer and wine cellar both. I'm not choosing one. Wine cellar in winter.
It's a good answer. Most unusual thing you've seen during a property inspection.
Most unusual thing. Oh, I mean, you see a lot. I saw a roller door yesterday that went nowhere, like it was a high clearance roller door, and I was really curious to see what was on the other side, and there was nothing. There was just like a brick wall. So obviously, at some point, that must have been land, or it must have been leading out to somewhere. But right now, there's a roller door, and it has high clearance, and it leads to nowhere but a brick wall.
Good one. So
Yeah.
it's I've got a client. She bought a property in Bright, with investment property in Bright.
Right.
And she rang me about 3 months later, and she said, "I actually found a door behind a wall because we were just redoing it, and there was a door hidden behind a wall, which
Okay.
was plasterboarded up." And she, at the time, or she's been doing it for years, but she was a taxidermist, and she would actually teach
Right.
taxidermy as well. And so we were really intrigued because we opened it up and there's a room. And I said,
So they opened the door up.
"Yeah," and there was a room.
Okay.
And she said, "It's not on the plans."
Yeah, interesting.
There's this, and I said, "Is it a dungeon? Does it have chains on the wall?" So is there any skeletons sort of on the wall? She goes, "No, it was just an empty room that had like some empty paintings in it and things like
Yeah.
that. But it's not under plans."
Great.
And she said, "So I've now got a 5-bedroom property
Yes.
because it's
Yes.
extended into." So it was the dungeon room.
Dungeon room, no permit. Probably
Mm,
can't insure it.
no,
Doesn't matter. All
no,
good.
that's right, the dungeon room. So it's what's the funniest request a client's ever made?
Funniest request. I don't know that I've had any funny requests. I do often get people simply These are probably your, more, I guess, established commercial types that know commercial property and they're pretty savvy. Calling up and just saying, "Hey, we're not going to engage you, but just keep an eye out for us for a property like this." And I'm like, "Well, that's not going to happen. You need to engage us." So I don't just keep an eye out because there's what am I keeping an eye out for? There's
I
far
do
too
that every
much.
Saturday for myself. It's used to be called Tony's looking at real estate porn.
Okay,
So on
yeah,
realestate.com. So
yeah,
put in the suburbs I like and everything over $10 million in that
yeah,
suburb. So
fantastic.
it's so just say, wow, I like that one, like
Yeah,
that one, like that one. So
yeah.
it's no, so yeah, never buy any of them, but I like them.
But you're interested in property, and it keeps you on the pulse. And
Yeah, so it's yes, I do like it. So one property deal you've never forgotten. Yeah, it could be a dream deal or a nightmare deal, but
yeah,
one you've never forgotten.
a property deal that I've never forgotten. Yeah, maybe my first one. To be honest, it was it's kind of like what I call my business as usual kind of clients and
Yep,
deals, which is a family run operation.
yep.
And they had been operating in their business for many, many years and they were leasing two sites. And they're really good at what they do. And they didn't know what the first step was in purchasing commercial property. And simply because we purchased something that was really fit for purpose, solid investment for the future, they didn't need to operate in two anymore because they found one bigger one. They weren't paying two rents. Now they're paying off their mortgage and it's a beautiful investment vehicle for them. And they were thankful and valued it and just meant a lot. So I remember that one.
Yeah, that's a good one. So I still remember the very first $1 million investment check I got.
Yeah, right.
And it was interesting because I dreamt of the day of getting that first $1 million investment check, and then once I got that, they just seemed to roll in on a weekly basis. But I took a photocopy of that because it was back
Yeah,
then. You got to checks, and it was
it means
wow.
something.
Yeah, it was is and I still remember their names. They're both passed now, but he'd sold his chemist, his pharmacy,
Right.
and they just bought themselves a new house, and then basically put $1 million into his super fund, and
Yeah,
yeah,
gorgeous.
and I remember that check, and that was just wow.
Yeah, it means something.
Evan and Sue, I won't mention their surname, but it's yeah, so it was, yeah, really did mean
It's why we
something.
do what we do, right?
Exactly right,
Yeah.
exactly. Last question.
Mhm.
So just finish this sentence. Success is
A fulfilling, peaceful life.
wonderful. Vicki Likoudis, thank you for coming in
Thank you so
today
much, Tony.
and being our guest.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it very much.
The Kofkin Bond podcast is a product from Kofkin Bond and Company, which we are an authorized representative of Count Financial. All information in this podcast is for education and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional, finance, legal, or tax advice. The hosts of the Kofkin Bond podcast are not aware of your personal financial circumstances. Before making any financial decision, you should read the product disclosure statement and, if necessary, consult a licensed financial professional. Do not take financial advice from the podcast. For more information, head to the disclaimer page on the Kofkin Bond website, or you can find resources on the ASIC website and find a registered financial professional near you. In the spirit of reconciliation, Kofkin Bond Co. and the hosts of the Kofkin Bond podcast acknowledge the traditional custodians of the country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today.